Oh, yeah. Woo! It sure is a great day. Gosh, the sun is out here in sunny Vancouver. What a day it is on this February 1st. Gosh, what a show we have for you today. We'll be opening up the conversation about addictions and specifically on alcohol and addiction and recovery and sobriety. We hope you really loved the last show with Amazing Holly. And that show was all about just really appreciating where we are at right now. Holly shared her incredible journey through Guillain-Barré syndrome, where she was climbing the ladder of life and nursing her youngest, her firstborn child who had just been born, her daughter. And then all of that was ripped away brutally within hours when she developed this Guillain-Barré syndrome. She was admitted to hospital, was paralyzed, completely paralyzed, and had to go on a journey of relearning to walk. And what a fascinating show that was. So many amazing resilience tools were shared in that show. So if you missed it, go log into Apple, Spotify, any of your favorite streaming platforms. Visit risetoday.com and you can find it all there. But today, boy, do we have a show. Welcome, Gentry Jones. We are happy to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Gosh, thank you. You totally, completely exemplify exactly what we try to propel here on this show, right? Opening up the conversation about hardship and really sharing the tools of how you've come to be so successful today. And I love, we've connected on Instagram. I love the message that you propel and the energy that you bring with you all the time. Your rawness about life, but also just this upbeat you're taking on the world. So I'm really happy to have you with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So Gentry, can you take us back? So tell us, how old were you when you would say alcohol started to become more of a problem for you?
Oh, I think that the way I felt about alcohol from the very beginning was not healthy. I think from what I've learned about alcohol and alcohol addiction is that some people it's a lot more gradual. Just over time, it's changing their brain, it's changing the way their chemicals are firing, and that's when dependency happens. I think that I already had a chemical imbalance and already was struggling with some anxiety, already struggling with some depression. And then I added alcohol. So my brain was very quickly like, we like this, like very, 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 very quick to like it, but wasn't as quick to show signs of dependency, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So okay.
Yeah, no, curious. Can you open up a little bit? You talked a little bit that you were experiencing some depression, some anxiety. How old were you then?
I actually had my first feelings of anxiety and depression probably in 5th and 6th grade. I had my first drink at 7th grade or 8th grade in middle school, that middle school age. But I was a 3-sport athlete. I was in ASB. I had good grades. I was a fairly good student. So like the way I was raised knew that I couldn't go off the rails, like it was like I was fighting this already like conditioned idea of how I'm supposed to show up in the world. And so being a drunk and dropping out of school and doing drugs wasn't a part of that picture.
Yes.
So then college though came and I was a little bit more free to just kind of create whatever I wanted to. And that's when it really started to get out of control.
Okay. And do you think there was still threads of this anxiety and depression that were lingering at that point, even that you noticed way back when from grade 5 and grade 6?
Absolutely. I think it was never really dealt with.
Okay.
And I don't think I even realized that I was having anxiety and depression in that early of an age until I got sober and really started to like analyze the whole situation.
Yes. And what did you find would make you anxious?
I had a lot of anxiety around friendships, feeling like people didn't like me. I'm very outgoing and personable, but then I would feel like I'm annoying people. I'm too much. I'm overwhelming them. And then I had suicidal thoughts in 6th grade. My parents were going through a divorce and was feeling like I was crying for attention. And it came out in like a depressed suicidal feeling, which is not even in the action of like wanting to go through with suicide. It was like, I need help and I feel like I don't know how to ask for it. And so I started making comments about suicide.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it sounds like too, right? Like when we're in so much pain, right? And if we're not healing that actual pain and we're just covering it up, then of course reaching to alcohol would make your brain feel good and like that very quickly, right? Because it would be an escape from all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you're in college, and are you still an athlete now in college?
No, so I actually quit. No, I was not. I was still active. I like to work out, so I would still work out. But when I didn't have the coaches to show up for, the fans to show up for,
Yes.
it definitely changed. Like, oh, who am I? Like, what am I? Oh, my dog's.
Yeah, that's okay. You'll probably hear mine. You'll probably hear mine soon too.
The joys of working from home now.
Right.
I think the mailman might be here. I don't know. Hattie. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, where were we?
That's okay. Into college and talking about the social part. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I went into college and I wasn't doing the sports. I didn't have the expectations of who I was supposed to be anymore. And that felt really lonely. I felt really lost. I felt really confused. And then as I was able to just go out and drink whenever I wanted to, I started partying on the weekdays, and alcohol really became an escape. And then experimenting with drugs became an exciting escape.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were kind of questioning your self-identity or questioning your self-worth, as we all do, right? From time to time. And then I don't know, it sounds like you kind of related with this partier girl, right? This cool party girl as your identity, and kind of went down that path. And something that we can all relate to from our university days, right? So easily we can all get on that same track, that same path. So then how did it present? Your alcohol addiction. You started drinking.
I started drinking heavily and realizing that it wasn't like this idea of college is like you go and you drink and you make stupid decisions and it's fun. And I kept waking up and not feeling like it was fun. It was like I'm waking up feeling super anxious. I'm waking up feeling embarrassed by what I did. I feel like I'm drinking more than other people. And this idea that that's what college should be and that's what college is something I'd love to change, because it's like you can have a lot of fun and have that freedom and not have to be blacked out drunk or have to be making an ass of yourself. I mean, but the idea of university, like you said, is we go and we experiment with alcohol and it's fun. But as I continued to be in college and having these experiences and getting alcohol poisoning at one point, I decided once I hit 21 that I was going to put myself in rehab. So I was about 6 months into being legal, and I put myself into rehab because I just didn't want it to be a part of my life anymore.
So this was your choice? Did somebody encourage you to do so?
I was dating someone that was sober. Well, dating as in like kind of, it wasn't like a serious relationship.
Yeah.
But he was sober and he would tell me how awful I was and how out of control I was, where my drinking friends were like, you're normal. This is whatever.
Right.
But I, in the back of my head, I knew that I didn't want to be in this cycle. Yes. So I did go, but I had the excuse that he pushed me if I wanted to change my mind.
Well, I always think people come on our paths for certain reasons, right? And maybe he was on that path at that time for a reason. But so you go to rehab, and was it successful?
I was sober for about a year and a half. I actually came back from rehab and stayed together with this guy and got pregnant with my first son. We aren't together anymore. We broke up during the pregnancy, but I moved home and was sober for the first part of my son's life and was feeling really confident. And that's when I started drinking again.
And how did that start, Gentry?
It started because mommy needs wine culture. I mean, like I went from the college culture to the mommy needs wine culture. And I felt that I was older and more mature, and I now had a kid to be responsible for. And so similar to how I had to show up for people as a college or as a high school athlete, I thought now that I have my son to show up for, I won't get out of control. I'll be able to handle it. I'll be more responsible this time around.
We're just trying to meet these societal expectations, right? No matter what phase of our lives, there's always some other societal expectation that we're trying to rise up to, trying to be part of. And I know what you mean, because that mom culture is like that, right? And you go out and you have your glasses of wine, or you talk with your girlfriends and have your wine at the end of the day. But I am one who has never been a big drinker, right? As a mom, and excuse me, I've battled my own health fronts, right? And so I prefer not to drink frequently at all. And so I'll go out and I'll have my little sparkly water in my wine glass. I'll put it in a wine glass specifically, right? With a little like lemon on the side. And I feel just as fancy, but other people are uncomfortable with that, I notice. Right. And other people want you to drink if they're drinking. So there is this culture and this community that you are talking about. Okay, so then you start drinking with the mom groups, and does this progress quite a bit? Now you're drinking in the day?
It progressed fairly quickly because your brain's already been altered. I don't know if you've experienced much with addiction, but typically you pick up right where you left off. So
interesting.
You could go 10 years without drinking and then start drinking again, and you're going to be very quickly back to where you were when you quit. It's not like something that's a restart.
I see.
So it was definitely like instantly feeling like the craving to drink more and more and more was there. But also I did have the son. I did have the responsibilities to show up for. So it was just a battle, an internal battle the whole time.
I bet. And how are you dealing with that internal battle?
I got pregnant again is what solved my problem.
Wow.
Because then when I was pregnant, nobody bugged you about drinking. You had an excuse not to drink. I felt like I had a jump start when I was pregnant. So I got pregnant with my second son, had another jump start, and kind of did that again with the twins. I got pregnant again when it was getting bad. Excuse me. But it was just a battle, and it just kept getting progressively worse. And then I'd get pregnant, I'd get a break, and then I would sooner or later pick up again.
I see. And then did you ever go back to really dealing with that childhood trauma of divorce, and then all that you've been through, and that void that you were probably trying to fill?
Not until I got so serious about being sober the last time. I had gotten a DUI after my second son. Once I started drinking again, it was just a few months of drinking again, and I had gotten a DUI. And during that process, I got sober for about 6 months and was doing the AA, I was doing the counseling, was doing the things that you're supposed to do. And that's when I started to really dig a little bit deeper to the anxiety and the depression. But as soon as I started drinking again, it kind of all went out the window.
Yeah, but I could see that, right? The cycle that you went through, because when we're pregnant, we have all these feel-good hormones, even though we might not feel the best with tummy nausea, right? But we do have a lot of feel-good hormones. And so that would probably replace some of that need for the alcohol that you were experiencing, right? With those feel-good hormones. And then as soon as those hormones are withdrawn again, your brain is like, give me something, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're still trying to mask that underlying hurt of whatever it is that you've been through. And trying to fill that probably with the alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so you get this DUI. How are you feeling about yourself and life at this point?
At this point, I felt I always had this thought process in my drinking that I haven't gotten in trouble yet. I haven't started drinking in the morning yet. I haven't started as long as I hadn't hit that, whatever my new boundary was, that I was okay. And so one of my yets was I've never gotten a DUI. And then I did. And so it became a wake up call, and I was really determined to not drink anymore, to remove that from my life. And that's when like I said, I really started I did the outpatient stuff. I put the interlock in my car. I was very determined at this time. And then when I wasn't successful, that's when kind of the hopelessness started to sink in.
Okay, let's talk about that in a sec. You said something that I'm not familiar with. What's the interlock?
Oh, interlock is where you have the blow and go in your car.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you do that before you drive.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. I hadn't heard of that. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so it's not successful, your attempts to stop, and now you're feeling hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
And is this rock bottom?
No. So after the DUI, I was sober for about 6 months, started drinking again, with the same false hope that I would be able to manage it, quickly realizing I can't. And now I'm just back to managing my addiction while trying to parent, where it's just this constant internal battle. And I started to just feel like, okay, this is going to be who I am. I'm going to have to battle with trying to manage my drinking the rest of my life. Like, I'm just going to have to, I should only drink beer. I should only do wine. I started making all these rules, trying to figure out how I can manage it, because I didn't feel like stopping was going to be an option.
And were you secretive about your drinking at this point?
I was, yes and no. I was drinking more than people knew, but I would drink in front of people. But I would have hidden bottles. I would have hidden mini bottles, or beer or wines in the closet and stuff.
And so this helped you get through the day, cope.
Yeah. And at this point, I still wasn't drinking during the day as much. But I was definitely not in a healthy drinking patterns at all. Then I got saved with pregnancy again and got pregnant with the twins. And the twins were another opportunity to jumpstart my sobriety. So I felt like, okay, I wasn't successful with the DUI, but this time I'm going to have 9 months and I'll really get sober and stay sober. After I had the twins, though, it was only a couple weeks before I started drinking again. I didn't do any work during the pregnancy of the twins. I didn't go to therapy. I didn't work on any of my mental health stuff besides just using pregnancy as an excuse not to drink, or as an opportunity not to drink. And then a couple weeks after having the twins, when I started drinking again, that's when I really, that whole year was probably rock bottom. I was drinking during the day. I was drinking in the morning. I was postpartum depression, feeling like now that I went from 2 to 4 kids, and feeling like I was never going to be able to give them enough attention. And instead of trying, I kind of checked out. And that was a really, really hopeless year.
What supports did you have in place at this time?
I live in the town that I grew up in, and my ex-husband, we were still married at the time, his family lives here, and my parents live here. So we had help with the kids, and they knew I was struggling. But nobody wanted to talk about it. And so they would take the kids and they would show up to my house, and they'd see that I was like drunk, and they would just kind of keep the kids longer. We never really had discussions. The way that they're hard to have, like it's hard to have. But yeah.
In all this process, did you feel shame?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I felt like I was the mom I imagined being, was no longer an option, is how I felt. And I felt a lot of shame about my actions. I felt embarrassed and hopeless. That's the best way to describe it, is a very hopeless feeling that year.
I'm so curious as to how you've gone from this hopelessness and all you've been through, all of these cycles, to transform into the amazing you that you are today. And I can't wait to hear all that you've been through in that transformation. Dan, great question. Did you have to change your friend group to stay sober?
Absolutely. And people are so terrified by this. They're so terrified about things changing when you get sober. Not necessarily because they're afraid of truly losing these friends. When you think about it in like the bigger picture, people are afraid of change. Their fear of rejection from these people. It's a fear-based feeling, not necessarily a truly need for these people in your life feeling. So the people that were my friends that knew Gentry and were supportive of me are still here. People that were around for drunk Gentry it's not that we hate each other. It's not that we just grew apart. They just weren't somebody that was going to be supportive in my new lifestyle, or somebody that I could be supportive in their lifestyle. We just don't mesh anymore.
Yes,
And
there's a cost of transformation, right? We don't bring all the same people with us from one side of that bridge to the next bridge to the other side of the bridge, right? We lose some of those people because they don't transform alongside with us. And as we transform and grow, we find that they're not with us and no longer serving us, no longer supporting us, no longer supporting our best interests. And that's really important to go through that process to really make sure that the friends that are in our closest circle really serve us and serve our positive growth. So great question, Dan. I'm always happy when you join us. Thank you. Excuse me. Okay, Gentry. So take us through now. We're at this hopeless phase. What is the magic bullet that changes things for you?
So I was at a work party, or work lunch. We just had gone to lunch, and we were able to drink margaritas on this work lunch. And I was already coming off of a binge. So was already had drank that morning just to feel normal, which they didn't know. And then, we had these margaritas at lunch, and I just started to feel really, really anxious. I didn't want to stop drinking, and I felt like I couldn't go back to work. I needed to continue drinking. And I ended up just leaving work and not telling them. And when I went home that day, there had been times I called into work because I couldn't work because of drinking. And I had been making excuses several times this year. But when I got home that day, the feeling of just complete hopelessness, I started playing out what my kids' lives was going to look like, having to watch this train wreck the rest of their life. It didn't even feel like there was a hope for it not being a train wreck. So I'm like, should I just remove myself? Should I run away? Should I feel suicidal because they'd be better off not having me?
These endless questions, though, no matter what phase of your life, it's these endless questions about self-worth and self-identity that you're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that comment. I love that you bring it back to self-worth, because I remember my dad telling me, like, you have 4 reasons right there to get sober, talking about my boys. Yeah. And it was like, oh my God, they're worthy. They're absolutely worthy. Like, they deserve the world. That's never been the question in my mind, whether they deserve it. It was always whether I deserved it. And I had to come to terms with that. Like, okay, you deserve better than this. Yes, we need to do things because we want to be good parents. But if you don't come to grips with your own worthiness, that's where I had to make that decision for myself.
100%. And for completely different reasons. Like I completely relate for, again, various different reasons. And, when I was so sick, just trying to stay the course, waiting for the gift of new lungs, gosh, that time was so brutal, right? Like, for something great to happen to me, something terrible has to happen to somebody else. I couldn't see. I had lost my vision with these high steroid related cataracts that I had attained in my eyes. And I couldn't breathe. If I walked across my kitchen, and I felt like I would lose capacity of all bodily functions, right? This time in my life was brutally, brutally hard, staying the course every day. And I completely questioned my self-worth, right? Felt like a burden to my family. And, I too agreed that my kids deserved so much better, right, than what I was able to offer them at that point. And it can be so hard to stay the course and to really change that lens. And I remember chatting with one of my physicians was just like, you gotta just hold on, Erica, because the gift of your presence is all that your kids need, and this will change. This too will pass, right? But holding on in those days can take such vulnerability, but also such strength, more than you could ever imagine.
Yeah. And I've talking with clients now, or people that are attempting and working towards sobriety now. It's like having this faith that it will be better. And if you're not to the point of having the faith that the faith will come, if that makes sense.
Yes. 100%. That's brilliant. Okay. So we're feeling really terrible. We're feeling hopeless. And then what was that magic turn that really changed it at this point?
I think that day, feeling like there was no way out. it was this complete just submission to there is no way out, and coming to that realization or feeling or that complete hopelessness, like there is absolutely no way out of this, was what opened the door. Like, you could just not drink anymore. That would probably be a good start. But that moment of feeling like I had no other options, was what the next day was just, okay, we're not doing this again.
You call it submission, and I kind of call it surrendering, and surrendering to the forces around us that we can't control and switching our focus back onto what we can control. Yeah, that's powerful. So what were your first steps?
So I got back into counseling. I started going to AA. I went to AA every single day on my work lunch for a good 2 months. And then I outed myself on social media. And that was a huge accountability program for me.
Of course. And how did that feel?
It was scary because I had yet to fully ever submit or surrender that to my addiction in that public of a form. I had been on social media for years, but never that vulnerable, because if I put it out there and somebody sees me at the bar, I'm going to look like an idiot, So,
right.
But I thought, okay, you know what? If I want to truly continue on this, what better accountability partner than social media? So I put it out there, and I was surprised by how many people reached out to me on private messages. People I knew, people I didn't know, saying that they went through the same thing, or they are 10 years sober and you had no idea they ever had a problem, or that they have their cousin is like that. I mean, so many people reached out, and it was just encouragement to continue to share.
Social media can be so powerful for that idea of connection, right? With complete strangers from around the world, and even those in our closest of corners that we don't know what they're experiencing behind closed doors, right? And then that thread, once we finally own our story and own our truth, right? Not only does it help us foster that connection, but it also instantly helps us shift from self-judgment to self-compassion, right? Because once we own our story, no one can use it against us. Most importantly, not even ourselves, right? With self-judgment that we've always cast on ourselves. And as soon as we put it out there, as soon as we truly own it, right? That is such a powerful shift. For accountability, like you're talking about too, but for so many reasons. But accountability, such an important point, Gentry, because we can look to blame our addictions on so many things that happen to us in our childhood, so many things that go wrong to us in life, right? And, for my cancer, right? We can look to blame. And was it my fault I got cancer? Absolutely not. Was it your fault that you became addicted to alcohol? Absolutely not. But if we don't take that accountability and responsibility, we can't affect the change. And we give all of that control. So let's say if I just take 50% accountability for having cancer, then I give cancer 50% responsibility for my future. Right? So if I change that moment and I take 100% responsibility, yes, I have cancer. Is it my fault I have cancer? No, but I'm taking 100% accountability for having cancer, whether it's alcoholism, no matter what it is. The moment you take that agency, that responsibility, that accountability, you take back your power. And it is such a pivotal moment in transformation.
Absolutely. And I think, and this is for cancer, for addiction, for relationships, and everything that, this making that change in my thought process from like, poor me, I have alcohol, to, okay, it's not my fault I have an alcohol. It's not my fault, but it's now my responsibility. I've taken that into parenting on ways that I felt like I was behind because I spent those so many years drunk. And in my relationships, how many times I wanted to blame my partner for all of these things that were going wrong in my life, when it's like, okay, maybe how they responded was not my fault, but how I respond is my responsibility. So yes, all across the board, making that switch is so powerful.
100%. I love that. And also really shifting, right, from that sense of self-judgment to self-compassion, as we're reflecting back and owning that story, and then seeing like small little Gentry, right, in grade 5 and grade 6, who just needed so much love and compassion right at that time, and seeing little Gentry, as a child, and giving that child, that inner child that you still are now, that sense of compassion, just like you would a friend. But we oftentimes don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then your steps, you're going to AA, you're doing your programs, and how is this, and is it unfolding well for you?
AA was helpful to keep me sober. It wasn't a long-term path for me. I just didn't feel like it was going to continue to be helpful. Outing myself was huge, and then building that community outside of myself. Like Instagram just has a huge support system of sober community. And I'm sure that that whatever you're struggling with, you start searching tags of that issue or that thing, you're going to find a huge support system. So continuing to do that, continuing to do therapy. I ended up getting divorced shortly after, or separating shortly after getting sober. And that's one of the relationships that just wasn't fit for my sobriety. And he's a great dad. He's a great co-parent. But our goals and our dreams were just not aligned. And that was something that probably caused me to continue drinking too, being afraid to make that realization. I wanted to avoid that feeling of like our disconnect. I wanted to avoid that. And so I would drink and pretend like it was okay. And so just.
You nailed something there, quote unquote, pretend like it's okay, right? How many of us do that in everyday life, right? We pretend that it's okay. And if there's one message that my audience can take from everything I propel, right? It's do not pretend that everything is okay. Allow yourself that safe space to be super real about all of those hard emotions, right? Because when we bury them, right, we create these survival mechanisms like alcohol, like, being too busy, being go, whatever it may be, right? And then that doesn't serve our mental health. That doesn't serve our physical health. That doesn't serve anything. It stays in there. It just transforms, right? But learn to sit with that pain, learn to sit with those hard emotions and create that space. For me, I love to use music. And so I'll create various music playlists, some that completely connect me to my pain, right? Where I can also feel connected, just like social media. You can use music to feel connected to others because you can hear your pain in the lyrics of others, right? And so I'll use music to connect with my pain too, and to really be able to sit with it. But then I'll also use music to shift from that, because it's not going to serve me to stay in that for endless time, right? And so I'll use a different playlist, my Empowered Girl playlist, or my, get up and dance playlist, whatever it may be. I do like to dance. But finding that courage to really sit with those hard emotions is so powerful in transforming and in our ability to really set ourselves free from whatever has held us back. So it sounds like you went through that journey.
I love that. And the analogy that I give with that same concept is that it's like a stuffed animal in a closet. And when you're a kid and there's like a stuffed animal and a basketball and a baseball and it's dark and it just looks like a big scary monster. It's like as soon as though we like just shine some light on the scary stuff that's in our closet, it's really not that scary. It's like, once you put light on these things, once you like let them come out and you sit with them, you think about them, you examine them, and you understand them, you realize they're not a scary monster in the closet.
And putting light on it, I love how you phrase that. Putting light on it is really paying attention to it, learning to be aware, right? Through this process of awareness and mindfulness of the emotions that wave through us all the time, and being okay. In this moment, I am feeling sad. I'm feeling frustrated. Being able to label our feelings is so important. And knowing that, yes, I might feel like that in this moment, but it doesn't mean I'm going to feel like that in 10 minutes or tomorrow or in a week from now, right? And being okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because otherwise it doesn't go anywhere. It just transforms somehow, whether it's to an addiction or to cancer or to something else. It just transforms within us. So always creating that safe space. And Dan, you had talked about, you're finding if you changed your friends, but finding those certain close friendships and those in our family who do allow us to create that safe space. right? Who aren't trying to fix something for us, but who are just allowing us to be really real and to validate what we're feeling and experiencing. Also important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you. So tell us about your life now.
Oh my goodness. So in that self-discovery stuff, and just having that fear of change and addressing that fear of change by making the decision to get sober, and just having that faith, I decided that I wanted to continue that kind of thought process. I wanted to continue that, and every obstacle in our life is an opportunity. And so I've since then was really focused on being more efficient with my kids, was really focused on getting my house organized, was really focused on getting my myself organized, and just continued to work out from there, and decided to quit a job. I would have never quit my job in active addiction. It would have been too terrifying to do. But having I just feel like I have this blind faith that even if I fail, I'll be okay. Like, even if it doesn't work out how I imagined, it will still be okay. And if I could either try and fail, or I can not try and always wonder what would happen. So I quit my well-paying accounting job, where I was at the top of the chain, and decided to work as a sober influencer on Instagram and on TikTok, and to work with people in sobriety, and to work with people with their relationship with themselves, and build a support system and a way to serve, because that's where I feel like I feel the most at home, is when I'm able to serve others.
I love this. You have a powerful story. Powerful story. Take action, my friends. Look at this. Take action. Take accountability. Gentry, can you share, what would be a message that we could share to someone, let's say, younger you, back in high school or early college days, to change the path, reroute it earlier on?
Oh, don't be afraid to chase the dreams. Don't be afraid to get on the plane and go where you wanted to go. Don't be afraid to take the risk. Don't be afraid to have faith in your journey. I think that I made safe decisions in high school and out of high school out of fear of failure. Like, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be an actress for 10 years in my elementary school, high school, and then I went to school and started studying science. I don't know, like, it was just like, I wanted to play it safe. And my encouragement to people is, don't play it safe. Like,
you were living incongruently, it sounds like, right? You were following the rules, right, of what should be. And it sounds like you were living incongruently to what Gentry inside was really screaming and wanting to do.
Yeah, follow your heart.
Love that. Well, thank you for being with us today. Risers and Thrivers, I hope you've loved this segment. And if you are struggling with alcohol addiction, please reach out to Gentry. How can my audience find you, Gentry?
You can find me on Instagram at Life with Gentry. And then I have some sober apparel too that stands for Alcohol Free AF. It's AF squared. So if you are on your sober journey and you'd like to rock some like Secret Club AF squared gear, you can find a link to that at Life with Gentry as well.
I love this. I might also just get one so that when I'm out with my little fancy wine glass and my little lemon, I'm like, woohoo. Anyhow, thanks so much again. Okay, Risers and Thrivers, I hope you've loved this one. Make today count. Again, what a beautiful day here it is in Vancouver. I hope it's beautiful where you are too. Thanks for joining us. All the best. Rise today, my friends.
It's gonna be a good day.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Take this inspiration forward. Learn more at risetoday.com/podcast. And please do help us in our mission to spread hope, inspiration, and positivity by encouraging those in your circle to join us and to tune in for our next show of inspiration coming soon. Please contact us if you have a powerful story to share with us to inspire the world. Until next time, get out there and rise today.